Just when you think this season of Classroom of the Elite can't get any more intense or interesting, in comes this episode, which kicks off with Horikita's brother no longer being student council president. Pretty explosive way to start an episode, all things considered. Even if drama's not involved, right? It's a big moment, all things considered. The person that is one of the most, if not the most respected people in this school, no longer in the position that he's in. Is so small when you look at the overall picture of this episode and the progression. I mean, we have one of the most psychotic bitches of the anime year so far. This girl is targeting not only my boy Aino, it's also targeting Horikita, and just the fact of the matter is, instead of going the route of what I thought was going to happen, and I think based on the conversations and comments I've seen and been a part of, everyone was expecting they're gonna target that bitch. They're gonna target her, who apparently has some crazy ass past and seems to be a psychotic witch, personality switch, personality disorder, who the hell knows. Instead, Horikita doesn't take the high ground, but rather looks at it as, what can I use as the best tools possible? And someone who, yes, is targeting them, and the easy and, I think, logical solution is get her expelled. Even though, yes, my boy has been against expulsion before, I think in this predicament makes total sense, and seemingly he was fine with it, but she's like, no. She would be more valuable to us if I can switch her around so we can use her for our benefit. And all things considered, given the fact that the traitor that was a part of Ryun's class, kind of got exposed, which we're going to talk about and get to that. So all things considered, being able to use someone like this who has the personality at face glance of the nicest, most bubbly, cheerful person ever, but as seen by last week's episode, is ready to pull a machete and, give horror villains a run for their money. I think it's interesting that they're going that route, and the fact that he's taking a step back and letting her lead the charge, which is very interesting. But when it comes to Ryun, right, this man, just seeing how he leads his class, we've always known he's led by fear. And unless people are going to the teachers, right, we know how the school operates. There is going to be nothing that will hold him down. And, the fact of the matter is, even characters like, just really don't give a shit, all things considered. Like, he's just trying to stay in the shadows, and he'll take people out need be. But at this point in time, as long as, blackmail can be involved, he can just guide things from the shadows, right? So the fact of the matter is, just seeing him build up to, exposing the traitor in his class, the punching of every desk, and then just looking at this girl, grabbing her by her head and, slamming it down. This man was not playing, and the fear, it's not even they're worried about getting hit. It's more so they're worried about how he can ruin their lives. The physical abuse is just the icing on the shit cake, and this man is literally controlling it without much struggle. Though I have to wonder, right, because there's two names that get brought up, one of which is, of course, the man we know pulling the strings from the distance. And it's interesting, right? Because if you put yourself in the character's shoes rather than what we know as the viewer, the idea of saying it's too obvious for it to be Aino. It makes total sense from their point of view, given how this man has led from the shadows. Pretty much every big brain play has been placed on Horikita, and he's always just been seen as the lackey for her, right? We're building up to this moment that the school is about to learn the true potential of Aino Koji. And I think it's going to be so fascinating to see what it will look like when the mask comes off, because this man rarely smiles, rarely shows emotion, and seems bored out of his mind almost every single day. Yes, there's these moments where people are now confessing their love, being like, I saw you at the sports festival, you look so cool. The abilities in his physical physique and his academic stuff is starting to get more looked on oh shit, you're better than we thought. But not to the point of oh, he's the best in the school, or he's the craziest mastermind. All things considered, I think you have more reason to be, if you were to say, which one of these two characters should you be more scared of, Aino or Ryun? Most people are probably gonna naturally say, well, this man, because he's beating fools, he's kidnapping fools, it feels like he's torturing fools, Ryun's just kind of a crazy bastard. But all things considered, we know Aino is capable of far worse than anything this man could possibly dream up. And it feels like we're building up to this moment where, the mask will eventually come off. Maybe not this season, hell, maybe not even next season, but it's coming, and we're starting to see the true threats here, and it's fascinating seeing how he's manipulating the chessboard in such a way that it feels like he's playing blindfolded. He doesn't even need to look, but we know things are navigating in certain ways. It's hilarious when you think about it, right? All the girls blushing, hell, new romantic interest, current romantic interest, all pointing towards this man, and we know damn well the ladies love him, but the lady should probably be more scared of Aino than anything. And it's crazy to watch a man like this navigate in such a cool, calm, and collected way when we have characters literally physically and emotionally abusing people and leading their class through this iron fist. And while at face value what Aino's doing is more careful, more planning, he's not as psychotic looking, we know this man can be capable of so much worse. And it's crazy to see where this season has gone so far. Like, I very much enjoyed season 1, but season 2 is just letting the characters, especially characters who didn't have as much of a spotlight in the first season, really take off and become so much more than just background characters with a one-dimensional personality at face glance. And to see characters like even Pseudo, of all characters, man, like, I just love how he's being incorporated into the tool belt and everything, and that's what's really cool. And the current test that they have going on here, it's interesting, right? Like, the way that characters could literally be expelled or easily succeed if one person holds their hand, more or less. The way they ultimately go about presenting the matchups in terms of, like, making sure, like, lower scoring people end up with the right high score people so that they would be able to be carried more or less. It's going to be interesting to see what type of dynamics will basically come out, because they're targeting Class C because it's their best bet, all things considered. But I mean, with the potential of like your trader being exposed, but most likely is now going to be fed misinformation because no way Aino does include into the fact of what's kind of going on with everything, right? Eventually it's going to create such a chaos that it's going to be interesting, because for a long time, Aino's kind of been in the distance where there's an entire school that clouds his, I think, intensity. But now we're getting characters get 2 names, and one of those names is his, and even though they're not convinced it's him, there's a lot less shielding him. So if that other name goes away, there's only one person standing there. Not to say he has anything really to worry about, but the intensity and the chaos that would pop up, especially if someone like Ryun was convinced that you were the one responsible for, you know, doing anything bad to him, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy in the most entertaining way, and that's why we love Classroom of the Elite. I think in terms of what they're setting up for potentially the remaining episodes of the season, it's hard to tell with the pacing of the show, because to me it feels like this test would probably be the last 4 episodes or so of this season, but at the same time, given that it very well could quickly get resolved and they do something sort of like a cliffhanger to tie us over to season 3, since it was already confirmed alongside season 2. But I'm excited because the thing that I like about this season the most is that the setting in general really isn't the most engaging, whether it's the boat, whether it's track and field, whether it's an exam, right? But the way the characters just elevate such a boring setting at face value into something that's so thought-provoking, exhilarating, add in so many things that you think are cliche or normal, the romantic subplots, or, you know, all these different character interactions. But the way they're being, basically it feels like a puppet string, right? You know, Aino just has like the little thing and he's tilting everyone in the way that he wants. And to watch from a distance being like, I know everyone's scared of this bastard, but this is the man everyone really needs to be worried about. Because even though he's technically our protagonist and the character guiding this class to the top, it feels like if he needed to go to the extra mile, he would do so. And that extra mile would probably make what Ryun does look like baby speak, right? But thoughts down below, theories if you got any. Pretty crazy episode, all things considered, and it doesn't feel like it's letting up anytime soon. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.